Hi everyone and welcome in. It's a Monkey Mar. Before we get into today's part 1 of part 2 video, please subscribe and like. Today I want to get into the car rentals in the day of the 28th, the 29th, actually the 28th and the 31st of the affidavit. I also want to tell you about a phone call that I had with a very nice woman that is in the Lumbee tribe residing in North Carolina and went to high school with Letecia Stauch. I want to go over my new family tree. And with that, guys, let's get into today's video. I want to go over these car rentals. She is just a complete, I don't even know how she went to the airport to pick up Al after what she did. So we've got the red Nissan Frontier, the black Volkswagen Tiguan, the white Volkswagen Jetta, Harley's main vehicle, the silver Nissan Altima, rented by Letecia's aunt, Brenda, acquired and utilized by Letecia from January 30th to February 1st, 2020, after the Tiguan was seized by EPSO on January 29th. And then we have the white Kia Rio, a rental car obtained and utilized by Letecia on January 28th through 29, 2020. And the places they went, because now I've got the coordinates on the affidavit to actually see where on Perry Park Road and Highway 105 they found the particle board with Gannon's blood. But I have not read this complete affidavit as of yet, but I've gotten probably 3/4 of a way through. But here's the part that really just makes my skin crawl. So we know Al was out of town, so he comes back. Letecia rented the 2019 Kia Rio from Avis Rent-A-Car in Colorado Springs. Letecia picked Mr. Stauch up at the Colorado Springs airport at or about 0850 hours, so about 8:50 a.m. on January 28th, 2020. Shortly after Letecia rented the vehicle, Letecia and Al drove back to their residence from the airport in the rented Kia. Right then, my son is missing for a day, 12 hours, and my crazy wife shows up at the airport in a rented car, tells me that she's worried about putting mileage on her Tiguan lease, which justified the vehicle rental. How are you worried about miles when this woman is just... Al had to have known that something was definitely not sitting right. He had to have known. There was no way this woman could possibly have even... I don't even know what to say about her. She is just a piece of shit. In this part, Letecia provided statements to her husband, Al, that she was concerned about putting mileage on her Tiguan lease, which I just said, which justified the vehicle rental. It is noted, however, that during the time of the Kia rental, Letecia only put about 71 miles on the vehicle. During the time period Letecia had the Kia, she would not provide the location of the Tiguan, and Mr. Stauch never saw the Tiguan. Between investigators and Mr. I'm just going to call him Al, a limited search for the Tiguan was conducted and produced negative results. Investigators later learned she left the vehicle in the short-term parking lot of the Colorado Springs airport, but removed the vehicle at or about January 28th, 2020 at 1900 hours. And that is about 7 p.m. The Kia Rio was returned the morning of January 29th, 2020. She was definitely busy on January 28th. So let's get into the next part, what they are saying about the black Tiguan. Because after reading that part, my opinion of this part is she is definitely a few fries short of a Happy Meal. Wasn't too well planned out, was it, Miss Letecia Evil? So really nothing on the Kia except for a little creepy. Investigators did take a swab from a stain that was confirmed to be blood, but it was DNA profile was developed and determined it was a mixture of two contributors, one of which was male, and the major male profile did not match Stauch's DNA. Yeah, that's definitely creepy. Maybe they can solve another missing person with the blood from the trunk in that little car. Like, what in the entire F? Now, this is how, in my opinion, how deranged Letecia Hardin is. Because on January 28th, she picks up Al from the airport at around 8:50 a.m. and they drive back home in the little Kia. Gannon's missing. She's not acting, a little suspicious. He probably knew as soon as he got in the car that something was not right with her. Okay, so the Kia was really irrelevant. She just needed that car to get Al home so he would not see whatever she probably saw in the Tiguan. And she's like, I'll deal with that later. And of course, like I said, I have not finished reading the affidavit, but I really want to get into the mapping and the coordinates right here. So, the Tiguan, they believe that the Tiguan was used to transport the remains of Gannon from the Stauch residence to a location where Gannon's body was dumped. The definite locations of the Tiguan are known to investigators during the time period of approximately 1902 hours on January 28th to approximately 1200 hours on January 29th. Let's get into the definite timeline. So on January 27th, the day that she supposedly killed Gannon at home in his room before his sister came home. So let's add some spots into the map. So we know on the 27th, she made 2 trips to the Petco. And then she went back to the house. And who knows where she was that couple hours in between the 2 trips from Petco, because I'm not sure if anybody knows the exact truth. So we will not speculate. So then let's get into the 28th. So these are the coordinates to locations where she was out by Highway 105 and Perry Park Road in County, Colorado. So this is the area where she supposedly went on the 28th and dumped Gannon's body, and she went back out to this area to check. Let's get these coordinates into the map. My question is, where was Gannon on the 27th after she did what she did? Did she put him in the Tiguan and leave him in the car overnight? Like, what in the... I just can't even wrap my head around it. She is completely demented. But on the 28th, she goes to the airport and picks up Al around 8:50 a.m. on the 28th in the Kia. They went back to the house. Now, not sure what was going on that day, probably searching for Gannon. They probably had the authorities involved. But sometime she goes back to the airport around 7 p.m. and gets the Tiguan, because that's when the Tiguan left the airport. And then she goes out to Perry Park Road near Highway 105 to dump Gannon's remains. How was she gone for all of those hours and nobody thought that it was suspicious? I personally probably would have followed her. So let's go check out the area where she decided to leave Gannon until he somehow made his way to Florida. So on Google Maps from over here at the Stauch's residence all the way to, let me go back real quick, okay, up and through here on these 2 points that are definitely 2 areas where the car was on the 31st with the GPS locator that tracked it on the page in the affidavit. So let's go down and have a look. But why this area? This is an hour and 44 minutes to go there and back. No obstacles, no stopping. You just don't pick these areas out of a hat. Just like Pace, Milton, Pensacola, Florida. I don't think she is definitely the brightest banana in the bunch, but her thinking is just, she is a complete nut job. I guess we'll walk the rest of the way. And I can't even imagine how dark it is out here at night. So this area right here, let's see if we can get right on the dot. She is definitely a pull on the side of the road and let things out of the car, huh? So this is the first area that she pinned on the GPS tracker in the Nissan Altima that her aunt rented. And I don't know if anyone out there works for a car rental agency, but do you not need to be in person to rent a car, or have they changed things since I've rented a car in 20 years? All right, let's go to the next spot. So it was this area. I can't imagine her jumping a chicken wire fence in the middle of the night. But you know, this might not be wire, and she was on this side of the road. That little dot right here is where the car was parked. So it was definitely right through here. And oh my gosh. Okay, so this was the area that we were just at. And then she probably turned around, and then we've got her after that area stopping right over here. So she, what? Let me see something. Right about here. I mean, she is a monster. I'm trying to see that fence line because it does look like chicken wire, barbed wire. I don't know. Anyways, this was the area, and then she came back to this area in the rented Nissan because they said she probably came out there to check the area to see if anyone could see him from the road, because she did it and it was dark. And now she's claiming she is suicidal. This woman, I'm not even sure she is sane enough to stand trial. This is why people should not speculate. I've heard stories from he was passed off, taken by the killer. I heard that he was not in the car coming back, the backing up, the going forward, the looking at the shadows, changing the contrast. He was hidden at the reservoir, then he was moved, and this is not at all what happened. I am going to put together a poll and drop it on my community post later because I'm curious to know what all of you think. So let's get back into this real quick. I want to touch on a few points in the affidavit because I did end up reading it. And let's go ahead and get that done. So I want to touch on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 parts of this affidavit real quick. And it's just a line. Okay, let me see. Let's go to 25 first. And then I am going to give my personal opinion on what I think with these facts. And I will show you the new family tree. So let's get 25. And these are lines, not pages. Investigators believe that Gannon was murdered by Letecia in the afternoon hours of, after approximately 14 hours. So that is about 2:14 p.m. on January 27th, 2020 at his residence, and more specifically in his bedroom. Physical evidence recovered from the residence and inside Gannon's bedroom supports that a violent event occurred. Enough with that. You've heard it. We've seen it. Let's move on. 26. Based on evidence recovered from the residence, Gannon's remains were eventually brought through the house into the garage and likely loaded into the back of Letecia's Volkswagen Tiguan. After cleaning the murder scene, Letecia utilized the Tiguan to transport and dump Gannon's remains on the evening January 28th, 2020, and likely disposed of his remains off Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. I just showed you that, the last one on the map, where the piece of particle board located off of Highway 105 all matched his DNA. All right, let's touch on 56. And we read this earlier. It's the part about him coming into the airport on the morning of the 28th at around 8:50 a.m. This is the morning where she rented the 2019 Kia Rio. Picked up Mr. Stauch. They drove back to the house in the rental car. Let's touch on 58. Letecia provided statements to her husband regarding the mileage and that Letecia only put 71 miles on the Kia. And this is when she did not provide the location of the Tiguan. Okay, let's see which else I want to touch on. 66. The Volkswagen Tiguan is important to investigators because they believe the Tiguan was used to transport the remains of Gannon from the Stauch residence to a location where Gannon's body was dumped. So then they lost contact from 1902 hours on January 28th, and that's what, 7 to approximately 1200 hours on the 29th, which is 12 p.m. Investigators believe Letecia dumped Gannon's remains on the evening of January 28th, 2020, and utilized the Tiguan to do so. And then the Tiguan was seized from Letecia on January 29th, 2020. Okay, let's jump to 138. 1:38 between the dates of January 25th, January 28th. This part is just not a coincidence. Letecia viewed websites associated with searching for a job in states other than Colorado, such as Los Angeles, Orlando, Pensacola Beach, Fort Lauderdale. Letecia also viewed apartments and two-bedroom rental properties in Florida. Additionally, she visited a moving cost calculator website. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that screams, I still believe to this day that she did not just pick out Pace, Florida from a hat. She knew where she was going. Something is there, and I am going to figure it out. Okay, so let's move to 155. Okay. The Tiguan raw data placed the Tiguan leaving the Colorado Springs airport just after 1900 hours, January 28th, 2020. That's around 7 p.m. The day that she picked up Al from the airport, approximately, 9 hours, 10 hours earlier? This info matched the timestamp on January 28th, 2020 Colorado Springs Airport parking receipt to the Tiguan data. And the Tiguan raw data indicated the Tiguan stopped near a King Soopers parking lot for approximately 10 minutes after leaving the airport between 2:20:08 hours and 20:18 hours. And that's around 8 p.m. till about 8:15, 8:20. Was able to review video surveillance footage from that King Soopers, which indeed showed a dark SUV matching the description of the Tiguan sitting in the parking lot during that time period. Other footage, including video footage from a Wendy's restaurant in a separate location, helped to further corroborate the raw data. All right, let's go right here to 156. Of significant importance, the raw data showed the Tiguan in the area of Highway 105, South Perry Park Road, between 21:15 hours and 21:30 hours on January 28th, 2020. And I'm guessing that's probably 9:15, 9:30 on January 28th. So this is the map where I got the GPS coordinates off. Well, not this one, of course, the one that had the coordinates. Okay, let's jump to 164. Only 2 left. Furthermore, as mentioned above, Letecia drove through the same area in her Nissan Altima rental vehicle on January 31st, 2020. I also noticed, unless I missed something, that Brenda is only mentioned on the front page of the car rental with the Nissan, her Aunt Brenda. Okay, last one but not least, let's get to 174. Below the map, the area where the particle board was recovered compared with raw data from the Tiguan's location on January 28th and the GPS tracker data from the Nissan Altima on January 31st. As noted above, the raw data of the Tiguan has estimated 50 to 100 meter variance. So that's all I wanted to touch on the affidavit, and it's probably the last time I speak about this affidavit. So I am going to call this next segment My Mo-pinion, and what I think happened on the 28th with the cars, the rental cars, is that the 27th, she killed Gannon. I think she put him in the suitcase and she put him in the Tiguan. I think she drove the Tiguan to the airport the morning of the 28th when Al flew in, parked the Tiguan, and she got the Kia, picked him up, and went home. Later on that night, she snuck out somehow, went back and got the Tiguan, drove out to Perry Park Road and 105 and hid Gannon's body. And then when it was all said and done, when she was heading down to Florida, she stopped and picked him up. And remember, this is my opinion. I also think that when she drove to Pace, Florida, that she did not just get on the road and start driving and decide where she was going to stop. She knew where she was going. It was a destination. I can feel it, just like when I read the affidavit and I saw the searches for Pensacola, Florida. You can't make this stuff up. Okay? Now the question is, how did she get to Florida, and who went to Florida with her? Where was Brenda? Because another part of the affidavit states the only time that you had access to Gannon was only on the 27th. It was directed to those hours. Okay, let me get into the family tree real quick. I'm going to have to also put the phone conversation with the Lumbee, who I will call her the anonymous detective, in part 2 of this video. I do know, though, from talking to anonymous detective, that the families of the Lumbee, she told me that usually each generation, I believe, or maybe has 10 kids. She also said that she is married. I need to look at her family tree that she emailed me, and I'm going to share that in part 2. But it might be like a 8th or 9th cousin. And she did go to high school with Letecia Evil. But let's get into Deborah Locklear's parents real quick, because I found the answer to who Steve Dial is. Imagine that. But you have to make sure you have the right person, because Locklear, Chavis, Bullard, Lowry, there's too many. There's Sampson, too many. Anyways, let's get into Betty Lou Sampson. This is Deborah Sue Locklear's mom, and psychopath, sociopath, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know which one, but her grandmother. Okay, let's see. She was born August 4th, 1945 in Robeson County. She was the daughter of Chase Finn and Bessie Scott. Betty Lou Sampson, 56, died Thursday afternoon. Sampson was born August 4th, 1945 in Robinson County. She was the daughter of Chafin and Bessie Scott Sampson. Surviving are her two daughters, Deborah Sue Locklear, and her husband, Stephen, cha-ching, both of Pembroke. And I don't know if that's Raquel Sampson Lewis of Lumberton. Her mother, Bessie Scott Sampson. Her father, Chafin Sampson of Jacksonville. A brother, Horace of Lumberton. And 5 grandchildren and a great-grandchild. So, let's go to her mom's obituary real quick. This is Deborah Sue Locklear's grandmother on her mother's side. This is her mom's mom, Bessie Scott Sampson. So she is preceded in death by her husband, Chafin Sampson, a daughter, Betty Lou Sampson, who is Deborah's mom, 2 sisters, and 8 brothers. She is survived by a son and daughter-in-law, Horace and Ivani Sampson, 5 grandchildren, Deborah, Rachel, Karen, Horace Jr., and Randy. The family will receive. So, let's go back to the tree. And just like that, one mistake can be made, because Bessie Lou Sampson is the grandmother, not the mother. So let's go ahead and fix that. I do not know where Brenda acquired comes from as far as her mother and father, but Betty Lou Sampson, the mother of Deborah, she did not come from them. She is not listed in Bessie Scott Sampson or Chafin Sampson's obituary. Even under the grandchildren on Chafin Sampson, he has Deborah, Karen, Horace Jr., Christopher, Brooke, Cameron, and Rachel. He does have a daughter, Rachel, his wife, Betsy, 2 sons, Horace of Lumberton and Randy. And as you notice, Randy is not Bessie's son, of Jacksonville. And then 7 grandchildren. And if you noticed on his obituary, he was preceded in death by a daughter, Betty Lou Sampson. Surviving are his wife, Betsy, grandmother to Deborah, 2 sons, Horace Sampson of Lumberton and Randy Allen of Jacksonville. Bessie has another daughter? Nope, you see how easy you can get confused? That's Betty Lou. This is Deborah's mom. Surviving are 2 daughters, Deborah Sue Locklear and her husband Stephen, and I am willing to bet all the toilet paper in my house that his last name is Dial, of Pembroke, and Rachel, not sure, Sampson Lewis of Lumberton. So we need to add her to the chart. So the only way Brenda can come in is if it's maybe James Lowry's sister, or we'll figure it out, but you have to get the person right or the whole entire tree is going to crumble. Well, no. I'm so confused with this damn tree. I'm confused. Okay, let me just add the real sister to Deborah Sue Locklear, and that is but I am going to give you a little sneak peek of my new tree that I am going to attach the link for you all to have a part of after a couple more videos and I get some more information into the project. Alright guys, close your eyes and here we go. Alright, I started one on Ancestry with a lot of great stuff, up to like the great parents and the leaves turnover. I don't know, I find it absolutely fascinating. Alright guys, stay tuned for part 2. I will definitely have it out tomorrow. It's going to be all about the family tree and all about somehow trying to find a connection to the Pensacola area. I want to thank you all for your emails, talking to you on the phone, the anonymous detective in North Carolina. I just absolutely enjoyed talking to you. It was amazing. And with that, guys, everyone stay home and stay safe. And I guess that's it. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for watching. Please like or dislike, whichever you prefer, and subscribe. Everyone have a good day or a good night wherever you are in the world, and stay vigilant.